In 1981, a quartet of young rock musicians from California disappeared during a private jet journey. Their aircraft vanished from radar without a trace. For nearly 2 decades, the band remained unaccounted for, their fate an enigma that stumped authorities. Then, a Navy deep-sea mission uncovered something astonishing on the ocean floor, revealing a grim truth no one could have anticipated. Soft afternoon sunlight streamed through the delicate lace curtains of Emma Thompson's cozy living room in Crescent Bay, casting intricate shadows over the dog-eared pages of her novel. At 63, Emma had grown to cherish quiet moments like these, her reading glasses balanced on her nose as she immersed herself in the comforting embrace of a cherished book. The quaint Northern California coastal town had been her sanctuary for almost 20 years, ever since the devastating day in 1981 when her 20-year-old son, the lead singer of the band Scarlet Blaze, vanished. The kitchen phone's shrill ring pierced the calm. Emma let out a soft sigh, marking her page with care before easing out of her armchair. Her joints creaked faintly as she shuffled to the kitchen, the cool linoleum soothing under her slippered feet. "Hello," she said, bracing for a telemarketer or a misdialed call. "Mrs. Thompson?" The voice was crisp, official. "This is Lieutenant Commander Ryan Mitchell with the U.S. Navy calling alongside the Crescent Bay Police Department about your son, Ethan Thompson." Emma's breath hitched. After 19 years, she'd stopped anticipating such calls. "What's this regarding?" "Ma'am, we've located what we believe is the private jet your son and his band were aboard when they went missing. We need you to come to Port Hudson Naval Base." The words struck her like a physical blow. Emma clutched the kitchen counter, her knuckles paling. "I'm not in the mood for cruel jokes," she snapped. "My son was lost in a plane crash 19 years ago. I've accepted he's gone and I don't need my peace disrupted." She slammed the phone down before the man could reply, her hands trembling. The grief she'd fought so hard to bury now surged, threatening to overwhelm her. Ethan wasn't her only loss. Soon after, her husband, David, had been admitted to a psychiatric facility. Though deemed stable and released 5 years later, he returned to a reclusive existence, distant from Emma and detached from their small community. The strain of their son's disappearance had transformed him entirely. Emma sank back into her chair, but the book's words swam before her eyes. Focus eluded her. The phone rang again, relentless. She let it ring 4 times, 5, 6. Finally, exasperated by its persistence, she picked up. "I already told you." "Mrs. Thompson, please, don't hang up." A woman's voice, steady and professional, cut in. "I'm FBI agent Sarah Collins. I know this is hard to process, but we've truly recovered the aircraft. The Navy isn't playing a prank, ma'am. We need you at the base." Tears stung Emma's eyes. "I'm sorry," she murmured. "I thought." "I'll come." "Thank you, Mrs. Thompson. Do you need a ride?" "No, I'll manage." Emma hung up and moved mechanically to prepare. She slipped into a simple navy dress and comfortable flats, her actions automatic. As she stepped out toward the train station, a familiar car pulled up. The window lowered, revealing the lined faces of Linda and Robert Carter. "Emma," Linda's voice trembled with emotion. "Are you heading to Port Hudson Naval Base too?" Emma nodded, words failing her. She recognized them instantly despite the years, parents of Noah Carter, Scarlet Blaze's bassist. "Hop in," Robert said, opening the back door. Emma slid into the leather seat, grateful for the gesture. Linda turned to her. "The Harrisons are coming too, Lucas's aunt and uncle. His parents passed a couple of years ago. And the Garcias, Mason's cousins, will be there. His parents died of old age." The drive stretched over a few hours, heavy with tense silence broken only by Linda's occasional sniffles. Emma gazed out the window, the California coastline blurring past. When they reached Port Hudson Naval Base, the security was intense. Navy officers, FBI agents, local police, forensic teams, and what looked like expedition researchers. Agent Sarah Collins greeted them at the gate, her badge catching the light. Younger than Emma expected, her keen eyes missed nothing. "Thank you for coming. I know this is tough." She guided them across the base to an open field. Emma's breath caught at the sight, the very jet from David's old photos. Her husband had snapped pictures with their film camera before the band's departure, wanting to capture what he called their meteoric rise. He developed those photos for memories and police records. Now, the plane stood before them, a specter from the past. Rust marred its once pristine fuselage. Seaweed draped the wings like somber veils. The bold red stripes, once vivid, had faded to a dull brown. Dr. Elena Rivera, the lead expedition scientist, stepped forward. We were conducting a NOAA deep-sea ecological survey studying hydrothermal vents. Our sonar detected unusual metallic signals. When our submersible camera confirmed an aircraft at 12,000 feet, we alerted authorities immediately. She motioned to the plane. The Navy and FBI worked together to retrieve it using a heavy-duty marine crane from our research vessel. The wreck was remarkably intact, with the door sealed and windows cracked inward. The fuselage's preservation is extraordinary. Emma's gaze landed on several body bags laid out respectfully on tarps near the plane. Her heart tightened. "Are those?" Agent Collins nodded solemnly. "That's why we need you here for identification," Dr. Rivera added. "At such depths, with low oxygen, cold temperatures, and minimal disturbance, decomposition is significantly slowed. It's possible the remains are still recognizable after 19 years. Linda Carter clung to her husband's arm. "Please, we need to see them." The officials exchanged looks before carefully unzipping the first bag. Linda's anguished cry echoed. "Noah, my boy." The red leopard pants were unmistakable even after 19 years. Noah Carter, the flamboyant bassist, was identified instantly. The second bag revealed Lucas Harrison, his leather vest and unique belt buckle confirming his identity. His aunt and uncle collapsed into each other, weeping. The other bags held men none of them knew, not the pilot, not flight crew. They wore tattered but once expensive suits, hinting at wealth. The band was set to meet an international record label and producer, Emma said softly. "Some distribution company." David managed the band, but he rarely shared specifics with me, though I believe he told the police everything. Officer Michael Torres, who'd worked the original missing persons case, nodded. David Thompson grew volatile and was diagnosed with severe mental distress after the disappearance. Released 5 years later, he retreated into isolation. We tried contacting him, but he declined to come. Forensic technicians began their work, photographing and analyzing. One paused, looking up sharply. "Gunshot wounds. Every victim has signs of gunfire." Agent Collins's face tightened. "Something horrific happened mid-flight. They were likely shot point-blank. Without the pilot's body, it's possible the plane was set to autopilot and he bailed out." A flicker of desperate hope sparked in Emma. "Ethan and Mason's bodies aren't here. Could they still be alive?" "It's not impossible," the agent allowed. "No one's seen them, but we're shifting this to a criminal investigation from a missing persons case." Reporters swarmed like flies, cameras and microphones crowding in. A journalist positioned herself by the plane, speaking briskly to her camera. "Scarlet Blaze. Ethan Thompson on vocals. Noah Carter on bass. Lucas Harrison on rhythm guitar and co-writing. Mason Garcia on lead guitar." Locals recall their early bar gigs. They were gaining traction with their music when they vanished. The families faced interviews one by one. When Emma's turn came, she stood before the cameras, her voice steady despite her shaking hands. "I'd given up hope," she confessed. "But this new evidence gives me a sliver of faith that the police might uncover more about my son." She stared into the lens. "Ethan, if you're out there, please come home." While the other families grieved openly, Emma held her emotions in check. She'd learned to bottle them up. When the interviews wrapped, a police officer approached. "Mrs. Thompson, can we drive you home?" She nodded, thankful. As they walked to the patrol car, she glanced back at the plane. For 19 years, it had rested in the ocean's depths, guarding its dark secrets. Now those secrets were emerging, and Emma wasn't sure she was ready for what they might unveil. The supermarket was brimming with vibrant produce displays and neatly stocked grocery aisles on its ground floor. Over the years, Emma had found solace in the familiar routine of shopping here. The escalator to the upper level hummed softly as she gripped the handrail, her thoughts drifting to David. Even in his withdrawn state, he still found comfort in flipping through National Geographic magazines, their vivid images soothing him. The second floor opened into the electronics department, where rows of bulky CRT TVs broadcast the same scene. Emma's own face, speaking to reporters just hours earlier. The story had already hit the news. She froze, captivated by the surreal sight of herself replicated across 20 screens, pleading for her son to return after 19 years, as the anchor described. The footage cut to the recovered jet, its rusted frame dripping with seawater. A woman clutching a shopping basket paused beside her. "Oh my gosh, that's you, isn't it? You're the mom." Before Emma could reply, others began to gather. An older man gently placed a hand on her shoulder. "I'm so sorry for what you've been through, ma'am. My nephew was a huge Scarlet Blaze fan." A younger woman chimed in. "They used to rock Mickey's bar every Thursday night." The crowd closed in, their voices blending into a chorus of questions and sympathies. Emma's chest tightened, the sudden spotlight overwhelming her. She tried to step away, but the throng boxed her in. "Folks, give her some room." A sharp voice cut through. Emma glanced up, hoping for store security. Instead, the man from the bus stop shoved through the crowd. Before she could object, he seized her wrist and yanked her free, his grip unyielding despite her efforts to pull back. "What are you doing?" she gasped. He didn't respond, guiding her swiftly toward an emergency stairwell. A sign read "Authorized personnel only," but the door was slightly ajar. He nudged it open and tugged her inside, the dim concrete space echoing their footsteps. Emma jerked her hand free. "Why are you tailing me?" The man's face was stony, calculated. "I'm not here to save you, lady. I've got a job. Keep an eye on you and pass along a message." He stepped closer, and Emma pressed herself against the cold wall. "If you breathe a word of this to anyone, cops, FBI, anyone, it's over for you." In a flash, he pulled her close, pressing something hard against her abdomen. Emma glanced down, her heart stopping at the sight of a gun's black barrel. Terror surged through her. "Please," she whispered, "if you know anything about Ethan, if he's alive, talk, and you'll lose any shot at seeing him," he snarled. "You'd be better off sinking to the ocean floor before they get to you. The guy I work for doesn't mess around." Emma's mind spun. "How can I trust you know anything about my son?" He eyed her, then lowered his voice. "The lighthouse keeper's daughter stands by the coast, tallying stars that burned out long ago." Emma's blood ran cold. Those were lyrics from a song Ethan had been crafting just before he vanished. He'd never completed it, never shared it publicly. Only she had heard those lines one late night as he strummed them on his guitar. "We know it all," the man went on. "Your bi-weekly doctor visits, your Tuesday grocery trips, your husband out at Sunset Pines. We've had eyes on you for years." "My son's alive," Emma's voice broke. He stepped back, patting the hidden gun. "Keep quiet. We'll talk again, but if you get careless, if you mention this to anyone, I won't think twice. Bad things will happen to you and your kid." He turned and descended the stairs, his footsteps fading into silence. Emma stood rooted, then slumped against the wall, tears streaming down her face as she shook uncontrollably. Her heart pounded so fiercely she feared it might fail her. The stairwell door swung open. A young store worker peeked in, worry creasing his brow. "Ma'am, you okay? This area's off limits. Do you need a medic?" Emma forced herself to stand taller. "I'm fine, just needed a second." His eyes lit with recognition. "You're the woman from the news. I'm so sorry about your son." "Thank you," Emma mumbled, brushing past him. She'd forgotten all about the National Geographic for David. All she cared about now was escape. She hurried to the escalator, descending with a white-knuckled grip on the rail. The store's exit felt impossibly far. Through the glass doors, she spotted her bus pulling up. Emma burst outside, half running, half stumbling to the stop. The doors had already shut, but the elderly driver noticed her frantic waving. "Please," she panted. The driver, a kind-faced man in his 70s, reopened the doors. "No rush, sweetheart." Emma boarded, fumbling for her pass with trembling hands. "Thank you so much." She sank into a seat reserved for seniors, her body collapsing into it. As the bus rolled away, she glanced back at the supermarket. No sign of the man, but his words haunted her. "We've been watching for years." If Ethan was alive, what had he become? Who was this man? And what would it cost her to see her son again? Emma disembarked at the hospital complex, her legs still unsteady from the supermarket ordeal. The familiar medical building stood before her, its beige facade and tinted windows a constant in her routine checkups. She checked in at the front desk, endured the standard blood pressure check, and waited until her name was called. Dr. Larson, as always, was thorough, reviewing her heart medication and issuing new prescriptions. Emma barely registered his advice to avoid stress, her mind replaying the man's threats and those haunting lyrics. When she left the appointment, prescription bag in hand, the afternoon sun was dipping low. She stood at the hospital's bus stop, torn. The man had explicitly warned her against speaking to anyone, but David deserved to know about the plane. Despite their strained marriage, he was still her husband. She couldn't just shut him out. A car horn jolted her. Across the street, a dark sedan idled. The man from earlier sat at the wheel, motioning her over with a sharp nod. Emma's stomach twisted. She considered bolting back into the hospital, but his words echoed, "Bad things will happen to you and your kid." She crossed the street slowly, each step heavy with dread. The man lowered his window. "Get in the back," he ordered. Emma hesitated. "I don't even know who you are." "Back seat." "Now." His tone brooked no argument. Against her instincts, Emma opened the rear door and slid inside. The lock snapped shut. "I know you were headed to see your husband," he said, pulling into traffic. "You're waiting for the bus to his place, not home. Can't let that happen." "I won't mention you," Emma pleaded. "I just need to tell him about the plane. He deserves to know." "No, you don't get to call the shots." He tossed a pair of handcuffs onto the back seat. Emma stared, incredulous. "I don't know you. I don't trust you. I should have called the cops." "You're pushing it." In one swift move, he turned, grabbed her wrists, and snapped the cuffs on despite her struggles. "Make a peep and you're done right here." Fear paralyzed Emma as he drove on. They left Crescent Bay behind, familiar streets giving way to highways, then winding roads flanked by towering pines. After what felt like an eternity but was likely 40 minutes, he veered onto a narrow dirt path. A small cabin emerged through the trees, isolated, its windows dark. He parked and dragged her out, his grip tight on her arm. Inside, the cabin reeked of damp mold and stale smoke, sparse furnishings, a stone fireplace, little else. "Why are you doing this?" Emma demanded. "The police will notice I'm gone. When I don't show up, they'll come looking. You can't keep me here forever." "I can and I will." "Shut up for your own sake." He produced a roll of black duct tape and sealed her mouth despite her muffled protests. He stepped outside, lighting a cigarette and pulling out a phone. Through the window, Emma saw him pacing while talking. When he caught her watching, he moved out of earshot. Emma tugged at the handcuffs, but they were heavy-duty, impossible for her arthritic fingers to budge. Panic clawed at her throat. She was 63 with a heart condition, kidnapped by a stranger claiming knowledge of her missing son. He returned, stomping out his cigarette. He pressed on a seemingly ordinary wooden panel and a hidden compartment swung open. He pulled out several plastic-wrapped packages filled with white powder. Emma's eyes widened. She knew exactly what they were. He tore the tape from her mouth. She gasped. "What are those?" "You're going to swallow them. Those are drugs." Emma shook her head fiercely. "I won't. Kill me if you have to, but I'm not doing this." "Why are you targeting me?" "I'm just an old woman with nothing left to lose." He set the packages on the table. "Name's Victor Kane. I've got business with your son. If you want to see him, you'll do exactly what I say." "Please," Emma begged. "My heart condition, I could die from this. If you've got any shred of decency, there's got to be another way." Victor pressed his gun to her temple. "I'm not decent. Swallow the packages or I pull the trigger." 3 seconds. 1. "Please." 2. Trembling, Emma grabbed a package. It was small, tightly sealed. She placed it on her tongue and forced it down. Then another and another for an all. "Good." Victor lowered the gun and handed her a pill bottle. "Take these. They'll keep the packages secure inside you." Emma swallowed the pills dry, tears streaming down her face. "Don't ask questions," Victor warned. "The less you know, the better for everyone, especially you. This won't kill you. You're just a courier." He recuffed her and bound her to a wooden chair with coarse rope. "Someone's coming for you soon. Stay quiet and you'll see your kid." Emma sat in the dim cabin, the drugs heavy in her stomach, wondering what kind of life Ethan had fallen into that led to this nightmare. Minutes ticked by in the shadowy cabin. The pills took effect, a heavy drowsiness washing over Emma. Her thoughts grew sluggish, fragmented. She prayed it was just the medication, not the packages leaking their contents. The room blurred at the edges and she felt weightless, as if drifting above the chair. Time dissolved. Was it minutes or hours before the rumble of an approaching vehicle broke through? In her haze, headlights swept across the window. A large truck, its shape wavering in her drugged vision. Victor's face loomed before her, his features rippling. "Time to move," his voice echoed distantly. His hands freed her from the cuffs and ropes. Her legs buckled as he pulled her up. The world swayed with each step toward the door. Outside, the night air was sharp, like cold silk against her skin. Men stood by the truck, dark-haired, speaking rapid Spanish. They looked Mexican, their faces weathered and stern. One grabbed her roughly, shoving her toward the truck's rear. "Inside, Vieja," he grunted. The cargo area was larger than expected, but he didn't leave her there. He pressed on what seemed like a solid wall, and a panel swung open, a hidden compartment. "Get in. Keep quiet." Emma ducked inside. Her drugged eyes slowly adjusted to the dark. Shapes materialized into people, young women, some barely 18. They sat huddled against the walls, silent, their eyes hollow. She was the only one over 30, let alone 60. The truth hit her even through the fog: human trafficking, drug smuggling. She was entangled in it now, willingly or not. The panel shut, plunging them into darkness. The truck's engine roared, and they lurched forward. Time lost meaning in the black. The truck paused occasionally, muffled voices drifting through, sometimes the main cargo door opening, but their compartments stayed sealed. The young women remained silent, clearly accustomed to this grim routine. Emma dozed fitfully, jolted awake by bumps. Slowly, the pill's effects waned, her mind sharpening, bringing the full horror of her situation into focus. She was being smuggled across unknown borders. Drugs in her body, surrounded by trafficked women. After what felt like days but was likely hours, the truck halted. New voices, harsh and guttural, spoke accented English and what sounded like Russian. The panel opened, light flooding in, forcing everyone to squint. A hulking man stood in the doorway. "Out! All of you, now!" They stumbled into a warehouse, concrete floors, metal beams, the stench of oil and something chemical. More men waited, all with Slavic features, all armed. They were herded into a side room and told to line up. Nearby was a smaller room marked with a radiation warning. Emma's legs trembled from confinement and fear as she watched the women called one by one. Each time, the X-ray machine's low hum echoed ominously. When her turn came, she shuffled forward, pushed by a man who barked at her to press against the cold metal wall. Seconds later, another man strode in, the left side of his face twisted into a grotesque mask, mangled and poorly healed, locked in a permanent sneer. He carried a tray of small cups brimming with liquid. "Drink," he barked, to flush the packages. The younger women obeyed without hesitation. Emma's hand trembled as she reached for a cup, her heart racing. The disfigured man caught her paws and glared with contempt. "Why send us an old lady?" he growled to his partner in thickly accented English. "She's barely standing, only 4 packages in her." "No clue," the other shrugged. "Gotta ask the boss." The scarred man leaned in close, his foul breath hot on Emma's face. "Drink, Grandma, or I'll force it down your throat." Emma choked down the bitter liquid, her mind screaming at her for trusting Victor. She should have let him pull the trigger back in that cabin. A quick end would have been better than this. Now she was alone, at the mercy of these brutes. "I'm taking the old lady to Marco," the scarred man declared. "He'll handle her. Maybe we send a message to the suppliers, no more half-dead grannies who can't even walk straight. This one's defective." The other women stared at Emma with hollow, lifeless eyes, too numb to care. The man seized her arm, his fingers digging into her frail flesh, bruising down to the bone. "Move," he snapped, dragging her toward the exit. Emma stumbled along, her mind racing with doubts. Would she ever see sunlight again? Would this horrific journey actually lead to Ethan, or was she just another soul destined to vanish at the hands of these men? They moved through a maze of corridors, each dimmer than the last, his grip unrelenting on her arm. At last, he halted before a black door, its paint flaking like rotting flesh. He yanked it open, revealing a staircase plunging into darkness. The air grew colder with each step downward. At the bottom, another black door loomed. He shoved it open and pushed Emma through. She tripped, nearly collapsing, but his grip jerked her upright. The room before her was a living nightmare. Red walls, red floor. She realized with a sickening lurch that the color came from blood, the stench of raw meat and human filth slamming into her like a fist. It was a slaughterhouse crossed with a sewer. In the center, 3 women knelt in a row, blindfolded, gagged, hands tied behind them. They shivered silently. A man stood with his back to them, gun raised, aimed at the first woman's head. "Hold off, Vince," the scarred man shouted. "Where's Marco? I need him to deal with this one. Suppliers sent us a damn granny for a mule." The man named Vince turned, and Emma's world spun. Despite 19 years, despite the grim setting, she knew him instantly. Mason Garcia, Ethan's friend, Scarlet Blaze's lead guitarist. His boyish features hadn't aged much, still youthful even now. Their eyes locked. Recognition sparked in his, followed by a flash of panic. "I think you're Emma," started. Mason coughed loudly, cutting her off. "Get me a gag, blindfold, zip ties," he snapped at the scarred man. "Now." The items appeared swiftly. Mason moved with cold precision, gagging Emma first, then blindfolding her, and finally binding her wrists with plastic ties. His hands were steady, mechanical, not the gentle kid who'd strummed chords in her garage. "I'll take her to Marco," Mason said. "Let him sort this out." He handed the gun to the scarred man. "You handle those 3. Even blindfolded, Emma felt the man's twisted glee. "Yeah, I'll take care of him." Mason's grip on her arm was lighter than the scarred man's, but still firm as he led her toward what she guessed was the door. Behind them, she heard footsteps, a woman's stifled sob. They were climbing the stairs when the first shot echoed, then a second, then a third. 3 clean executions. Emma's stomach churned, but the gag held back her bile. Tears soaked the blindfold. Mason kept guiding her up through the black door, back into the upper corridor. His pace was brisk but controlled, a routine, she realized. Her son's shy friend, who'd once flushed at a girl's glance, had become this. They moved silently through another hallway. Emma counted her steps, desperate to track her path, but the blindfold threw her senses into chaos. At last, Mason stopped. She heard a door creak open, and he ushered her into what felt like a smaller room, maybe an office, away from the warehouse's open expanse. The horror of what she'd just seen, combined with the shock of Mason's presence, left her legs unsteady. If Mason was here, alive, entangled with these monsters, then maybe Ethan was too. They entered the room, and Mason paused. He knocked on an inner door, 3 sharp raps, a pause, then 2 more. Locks clicked from within. The door swung open, and she was nudged inside. "Sit," Mason ordered. Emma eased herself into what felt like a leather chair, still blindfolded and bound. The door shut and locked. Then hands were at her face, pulling off the gag. She gulped fresh air. The zip ties were cut, freeing her wrists. Finally, cool fingers lifted the blindfold. Emma blinked against the harsh fluorescent light, and her heart stopped. Ethan knelt before her. Her son, after 19 years. The same long, wavy hair, now threaded with early gray. The same pale skin, often mistaken for albinism. The same full lips and deep eyes. Older, harder, but undeniably Ethan. "Ethan?" Emma's voice broke. "Is it really you?" She glanced at Mason, confirming her suspicion. "And you're Mason, aren't you?" "Victor kept his word," Ethan said softly. Mason snorted. "That guy's as rotten as Ivan Petrov." Emma scanned the office. A nameplate on the desk read "Manager." Her stomach plummeted. "What's going on? You're both working for these people." "No time to explain," Ethan said, his tone urgent. "And no one can know we're family. Got it?" Before Emma could reply, chaos erupted outside, men shouting in Russian and English, the sharp crack of gunfire, screams. Mason bolted to the door, slamming the deadbolt shut. Ethan rushed to a filing cabinet, yanked open a drawer, and pulled out 2 pistols. "There's a phone," Emma said, spotting it on the desk. "We can call the police. They'll get us out. We can go back to our lives." "No, Mom," Ethan's voice was icy. "This is our life now." "What?" "Victor's men are taking over. He promised to reunite us if I helped him. He'll keep us safe." "No," Emma stood, reaching for the phone. "It doesn't have to be like this." Ethan stepped in front of her, blocking the desk. His eyes were distant, unrecognizable. "You don't get it. I never imagined finding my son like this." Tears streamed down Emma's face. "You're not a criminal. You're a survivor of a plane crash. Sometimes the line between survivor and criminal is razor thin," Ethan said. "We do what we have to survive." Fists hammered the door. "Marco," a thick Russian voice bellowed, "open up. We're under attack. Ivan's down. We need to lock down the office." Ethan and Mason exchanged a glance but stayed silent. More pounding, more Russian shouts, then gunshots just outside. The Russian voices cut off abruptly. Emma heard bodies thud to the floor. A softer knock followed, almost relaxed. "It's me," a Mexican accented voice said. "Victor." Mason looked to Ethan, who nodded. Emma watched her son grip his gun with chilling familiarity. Whatever innocence he'd once had was long gone, eroded by 19 years in this underworld. Mason cautiously unlocked the door. Victor Kane swept in, blood staining his shirt, the sharp tang of gunpowder clinging to him. He locked the door behind him. "It's done," he declared, wiping sweat from his face. "My men and I held up our end. This operation's mine now." He fixed his gaze on Ethan. "I want your loyalty, both of you. I took care of Ivan in his office, 3 bullets to the head. Alexei Volkov promised us stardom." Victor went on. "Said if we moved drugs and laundered cash through tours, he'd make us famous. But he never delivered. Kept me here as his errand boy while he partied and raked in the profits." Victor's eyes glinted. "I'm not like Alexei. As we planned, I'll keep this empire running, but I'll also make you a real band again. Give you the fame you're owed. Don't sweat the drugs. Just clean the dirty money for me. That's your part of the deal." Mason stepped forward. "You didn't bring my family. My parents are gone." Victor shrugged. "Dead years ago, but I kept my promise to Ethan. I brought Emma. I didn't sign up for you using my mom as a mule, making her swallow those packages. Ethan snapped. What were you thinking? She was about to visit your dad. Victor shot back. What was I supposed to do? If she'd said a word to him, he'd have tipped off Alexei, and our whole plan would have collapsed. He glanced at Emma, his voice sharp. If I hadn't made her swallow those packages, she wouldn't be here in your office. She'd be ashes in the incinerator by now. His eyes lingered on her, then shifted to Ethan. She was a pain to convince. Reminds me of someone else I know. He squinted. Bet you didn't know the cops found the jet this morning. They did, Mason asked, stunned. We haven't heard anything in here. Emma's voice shook. Yes, I was there. The Navy pulled it from the ocean. She turned to Ethan, a realization hitting her. Your father knew about this all along? Ethan exhaled heavily. It's complicated. I'll explain later. You know, Dad was our manager. His eyes flicked to Victor's hand, hovering near his gun. I'll honor our deal. I'll do my part. Victor extended his hand, and Ethan shook it, their grip tight, wary. I'm sorry, Mom, Ethan murmured, but this is the only way we can stay together and stay safe. Emma pressed a hand to her mouth as betrayal crashed over her. Her legs buckled, and she steadied herself against the desk. For years, she'd thought David's breakdown was from grief. Now she saw his stint in the mental facility was a calculated dodge. After his release, he'd slipped back home, evading the police and their questions. The man she'd married, the father of her son, had orchestrated this nightmare. And now she was losing Ethan too. The three men dove into logistics, disposing of bodies, arranging cleanup crews, deciding which of Alexei's men could be swayed and which had to be eliminated. They discussed murder with the casual ease of planning a corporate deal. Emma's gaze landed on the phone on the desk just behind her. Agent Sarah Collins's number was etched in her mind. As the men schemed, she inched toward the desk. Her fingers curled around the receiver, lifting it with careful silence. She began dialing. No, Victor spotted her, his gun snapping up. Ethan lunged for the phone, trying to wrest it from Emma's grip. Mom, stop! But Emma clung to it fiercely. The call connected, and she heard Agent Collins's voice. FBI. Collins speaking. Victor's finger tightened on the trigger. Time slowed. Mason charged at Victor. The gun fired. Ethan threw himself in front of Emma, the bullet slamming into him. Blood erupted across his chest as he spun and collapsed into her arms. Help! Emma screamed into the phone. We need help. Mason tackled Victor, knocking the gun across the floor. In one swift move, he snatched it up and fired once, twice, 3 times for a 5. The shots were precise, clustering in Victor's chest and head. Victor crumpled, blood spreading beneath him. Mason grabbed the phone from Emma's trembling hands. This is Mason Garcia, he said urgently. I'm one of the missing members of Scarlet Blaze, the lead guitarist. I'm with Ethan Thompson, our singer, and his mother, Emma. He rattled off their location. Ethan's shot, bleeding badly. Ivan Petrov's dead, but Victor's men are still here. Send a tactical team now. Units are en route, Agent Collins replied. Find a safe spot and barricade yourselves. Mason hung up and began fortifying the door, dragging a heavy filing cabinet to block it. Emma cradled Ethan on the floor, pressing her hands against the wound. Blood oozed through her fingers, warm and terrifying. Hang on, she pleaded. Please, baby, stay with me. Ethan's eyes flickered, his breath shallow and ragged. Blood soaked his shirt, pooling on the floor. Outside, sirens wailed, not just a few but a chorus like an entire armada closing in. The warehouse exploded with gunfire as tactical teams clashed with the remaining criminals. Emma kept pressure on the wound, her hands slick with her son's blood. She prayed with a fervor she'd never known, begging for her child's life. The gunfire outside peaked, then faded. Minutes stretched like hours. Finally, a voice shouted through the door. FBI tactical team. Building secure. Mason shoved the cabinet aside and unlocked the door. Officers in heavy gear stormed in. Medics now, one yelled, seeing the blood. Did you check the basement red room? Mason asked, voice tense. Incinerators clear, an officer confirmed. Entire facilities locked down. Paramedics rushed in with stretchers, gently pulling Emma away to work on Ethan. Another team checked Victor, but his fate was obvious. Deceased, a paramedic declared. Multiple gunshots to the head and chest. Massive blood loss. An officer approached Mason. Who took him out? I did, Mason said firmly. He was going to kill us all. They lifted Ethan onto a stretcher. Emma followed, her blood-stained hands shaking. As they moved through the warehouse, she glimpsed the battle's aftermath, bodies draped with sheets, evidence markers scattered, FBI agents cataloging the scene. After 19 years of uncertainty, she'd found her son, but at what price? Outside, the cool night air hit them. The parking lot was a sea of emergency vehicles, ambulances, police cruisers, FBI vans, their red and blue lights casting eerie patterns. Paramedics loaded Ethan's stretcher into an ambulance while another team placed Victor's body bag in a separate vehicle. Emma spotted Agent Sarah Collins stepping out of a black SUV, clearly arriving from a farther-off FBI field office. Mrs. Thompson, a paramedic, called urgently. We need to go now. Every second counts. Sarah jogged over. Go with him, she said. I'll meet you at the hospital. We'll take Mason's statement here. Emma glanced at Mason, standing with officers, hands free but shoulders slumped. I'll see you soon, Mason. We'll talk. I'll do what's right, Mason vowed, his voice heavy. I promise. Thank you, Emma whispered. She climbed into the ambulance. The doors slammed and they sped through the streets, siren blaring. A paramedic worked on Ethan, monitoring vitals, adjusting IVs. Emma gripped the bench, staring at her son's ashen face. At the hospital, controlled chaos took over. Ethan was rushed to the ER while Victor's body was sent to the morgue. Emma found herself in a waiting area, the fluorescent lights stark above. Her heart pounded dangerously. Dr. Larson had warned her about stress with her condition. She forced slow, steady breaths, determined to stay strong for Ethan. A sudden cramp in her abdomen made her wince. The warehouse drugs were taking effect. She flagged a nurse. I swallowed drug packages, she said, voice urgent. I need to get them out. The nurse's eyes widened. Come with me now. They hurried to a specialized room. The nurse gloved up, gathering a bedpan, evidence bags, and tools. We have to extract these carefully, she explained. A rupture could be deadly. Emma positioned herself over the bedpan. The nurse watched closely as her body expelled the packages, one by one. Each was retrieved with forceps, checked for leaks, and sealed in evidence bags. The process was degrading but vital. For packages recovered, the nurse noted, all intact. Afterward, Emma was admitted for observation. She disclosed her early-stage heart condition to the medical team. They ran EKGs, drew blood, and monitored her closely. The stress had taxed her heart, but she was stable. Hours later, as Emma lay in her hospital bed, Agent Sarah Collins arrived with her partner. The doctors briefed us, Sarah said softly. Victor Kane died from massive blood loss, multiple gunshots. Ethan, her face was somber. He's alive, but in a coma. He flatlined twice in surgery, but they revived him. He's critical but stable. He lost a lot of blood. Emma closed her eyes. Thank God he's alive. Mason's been fully cooperative, Sarah continued. He told us everything. Do you want to hear what happened in 1981? Emma nodded. Ethan didn't get the chance to tell me. Sarah flipped open her notebook. For Mason, your husband David was the band's manager. He lured them onto a private jet for what he called a celebratory trip, promising a deal with an international label. She paused, but on board they met Alexei Volkov. David revealed the real plan. The band would launder cartel money through tours, funneling cash via ticket sales and merch. Emma's stomach churned. David set it all up. When Ethan and Noah refused, David and two cartel enforcers drew guns. A struggle broke out. Noah was shot trying to resist. Lucas was killed for attempting to contact air traffic control. Ethan was spared because he was David's son. Mason agreed to comply to protect his family, noting he was the charming one, a fan favorite. Alexei saw his value for the laundering scheme. Sarah went on. David coerced Ethan into working for Alexei, threatening your life if he refused. After the killings, Alexei needed to erase the evidence. The pilot, one of Alexei's men, set autopilot toward the Wanda Fuca Ridge. They parachuted out where Alexei's crew waited with transport. Why wasn't the plane found for 19 years? It flew low, dodging most radar. Pacific coverage in 1981 was spotty. The emergency beacon was disabled and the crash site was too deep for the era's recovery tech. Emma wept openly. My son was trapped with monsters for 19 years. I overheard them say he took lives, used women and children as mules. Alexei and Victor are dead, but Ethan and Mason were just kids caught in my husband's scheme. What happens to them now? Sarah sighed. David's being processed. His years of dodging questions by claiming mental instability won't shield him anymore. We're pursuing charges. For Ethan and Mason, it's tricky. Prosecutors could paint them as willing criminals, but we're pushing their coerced victim status. They were teens threatened with family murders. Mason's cooperation is a big help. With strong legal counsel, they could get reduced sentences or even immunity for testifying against the cartel. Mason's parents died years ago, Emma said quietly. He might not have known, cut off as he was. He's at the station giving a full statement. You can speak with him when you're ready. That'd be good, Emma said. Please keep me posted. After the agents left, Emma summoned a nurse. I need to see my son. A wheelchair was brought and they helped her settle in. The nurse pushed her through hushed corridors to the ICU. Through glass doors, she saw Ethan, still hooked to machines. A ventilator breathed for him. Monitors tracked his vitals. Bandages wrapped his chest. He looked so young, so fragile. The nurse wheeled her inside and left her alone. Emma reached out, her fingers trembling, and touched Ethan's hand. It was warm but limp. My baby, she whispered. My sweet boy. Tears fell as she held his hand. 19 years of separation, of not knowing, of sorrow, all led to this. Her son was alive but shattered, molded by horrors no child should face. I'm so sorry, she sobbed. Sorry I couldn't shield you. Sorry your father did this. But you saved me, Ethan. You took that bullet for me. She prayed, pouring out her soul. God, please heal my son. I know he's done terrible things, but you know his heart. He was just a boy trying to survive. Please show mercy. Let him wake. Let him have a chance to redeem himself. Emma squeezed Ethan's hand gently. I'll fight for you, she vowed. Your father should answer for his crimes. Not you. You were a victim, my brave, lost boy, doing what you had to. The machines beeped steadily, counting time. Ethan lay still, trapped in his coma. But Emma stayed, holding his hand, finally reunited with her son. After 19 years of questions, she had answers. After 19 years of absence, she had presence. It wasn't the reunion she'd dreamed of, but it was real. She'd stay as long as they allowed, watching over the child she'd lost and found, praying for one more miracle, that he'd open his eyes and call her mom again.